Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange, and today I'm here to do a recommendation video of a zombie fiction. Now hold on before all of you jump ship and click off this video. I know a lot of horror readers don't necessarily enjoy zombie fiction, but I'm here to tell you that there are books that are technically zombie books that can definitely appeal to those of you that normally avoid them. These books are smart and insightful. Yes, a lot of times there's some gore and blood and all those good things I enjoy, but at the same time, I've seen a lot of authors use zombies as a way to reflect back on humanity. There's some really good character studies in my recommendations here, and I'm pretty much going to guarantee that even if you don't normally read zombie books, there's going to be at least one recommendation in this video that will appeal to you. So before I get started, I do want to mention that this is actually my second time doing a zombie book recommendation video. So I'm going to have my first one linked in the cards and down below in the description box. So after you watch this, if you want more zombies, I really encourage you to go check that one out. But I'm going to have no repeats in this video, so if you've already watched that, these are going to be all new to you. I think I have some underhyped ones to talk about, including some favorites, and let's get started. First, I want to talk about Zombieville by C.V. Hunt, and this is a novella that follows a young sociopathic man who is working as a mortician in his hometown. As a child, he was abused by his father and is just not the most likable person necessarily. He has difficulty relating to other people and has scars from his abusive childhood. Now, right at the beginning of the story, you find out that his brother has died, or so we think. However, instead, his brother is actually being kept alive in a zombie-like state and is being kept in the brother's closet. In order to feed his brother, he then goes on to give him body parts from the mortician's office where he works. And the story is mostly about the sociopathic brother instead of the zombie brother. So that's why I actually think this one will appeal to, again, those of you that say, I don't read zombie fiction. Because yes, part of the story is written and told from the zombie's perspective, and you find out that he is very depressed. He basically just wants to die and is frustrated that his brother is insisting on keeping him alive. And so those aspects are actually a lot quieter. Definitely there are some blood and guts because you do have the parts where he is feeding his brother and taking apart bodies. But for the most part, this is really a story about a troubled young man who has a difficult past, so content warnings for, of course, mentions of childhood abuse. But as an adult, he is trying to function in society and move on and have a life. And within this story, he meets a young woman who happens to be blind. And because of that, she does not see the disfigurements on his face and just instead accepts him for the personality and the person that he presents himself to be. And so they begin to have a relationship. However, things are complicated. This man, as I said, is quite troubled, and things do not go as nicely as they seem to be. So without giving away too much, I'm going to say that this book is very dark in tone and definitely is more serious than some of the other zombie books I'm going to mention here. But if you enjoy a zombie book that is really more about a psychotic character, then this is definitely one to check out. It still has those zombie moments. I don't want to pretend that there are none of them, but it's a good blend of both. It's very smart and it's really different than anything else I've read in this genre, so I definitely recommend it. It was a lot of fun and very compelling at the same time. Next, I want to recommend The Living Dead by George A. Romero and Daniel Kraus, which is a more popular one but definitely deserves a place on this list. This, of course, is written by the famous director who wrote so many epic zombie films, and this is not a novelization but a new story. He started it but was not able to finish it before he passed away, and so his widow gave permission to Daniel Kraus to finish the story. At the beginning of the story, it is told from two morticians that are working together in an office when a body they're working on begins to reanimate. They panic and are able to subdue the creature. However, when they go to call authorities to let them know what's going on, they find out that this is not just happening in their office, but all around the world, and it's definitely going on a larger scale than they ever thought. As I mentioned, this is told over multiple perspectives, so you get to see from different people in different places in the world, as well as military perspectives. And I really think that that helps to give the story more of a grand scale perspective so that it's not so much intimate, but really feels epic. And I should mention this book is quite long. It really delves into various characters, various situations. And if you just really like getting lost in a story for a while, this is a good one to pick up. While it's zombie fiction, I do remember reading it and feeling like it was a case where the book itself was not overly focused on the zombies. It more felt like a pandemic story because there were scenes with zombies, but there was plenty of chapters that didn't feature them at all. And it was really more about the characters. So if you're someone who just enjoys a multi-character perspective story, especially something with kind of a pandemic feel to it, this is a good one to check out. And I definitely recommend it to those of you that like zombie fiction and those of you that are a little bit wary of it but are willing to go in, because there is some gore and guts, but there's also a lot of good character work here. And again, it's very epic. If you're a fan of the director's work, this is a great place to jump into some fiction. Next, I want to recommend a book that I feel like no one else on BookTube is ever talking about. This is a novella called Skin Food by Type A, and this is a story about a couple of Americans that go off overseas to Korea, specifically South Korea, I should preface, and they go to visit their college friends that are now working in the area. And while they're there in the apartment, a zombie outbreak starts and they have to figure out how to survive, how to get out of the country. And this is more of an intimate story. Most of the story actually takes place in the apartment with the zombies outside. So you really don't get to see a lot of the zombies until the end. Instead, it's more of a survival story. You get this group that are trying to work together to figure out a plan to get out of there. This is a story that I really liked because before reading it, I knew very little about South Korea and its culture. This book, as I mentioned, is written by Type A, which is technically a pseudonym, but the person themselves is actually of South American descent, but they spent several years working and living in Korea. So a lot of this book is really focused on Korean culture, aspects of food and work ethics, and I definitely learned a lot. So if you're looking for a zombie fiction story that is more diverse and brings in a non-North American perspective, I really like to recommend this. It is novella, so it's relatively short, and again, it's much quieter. There's very little gore or anything like that. Instead, it's more focused again on the survival aspects and having this group of people trying to work together that aren't necessarily the best of friends anymore, but finding a way out of the situation. And I just thought it was really unique and would love to see more people read it because again, I feel like it's really underhyped. Now, speaking of underhyped novellas, I also want to recommend Elegy of the Undead by Matthew Vasily. And this follows two gay men that are recently married, and unfortunately one of them is bitten and catches a fatal disease. This disease is very zombie-like, so you find out that people become delusional and angry and quickly fall into a zombie-like state. Now, with advancements in modern medicine, they are able to extend the life of this young man, but he is still going to eventually die. And this is very much a story that is about the love between these two grown men, but at the same time, it really explores how fatal illnesses affect a marriage and a relationship. And so the story is told partially in the present day, but then it also has flashbacks and shows you how they got together. And you just get to see how terminal illness really changes their relationships, the challenges they go through, how they grow closer and also grow farther apart. And it's very much focused on their romance. It was perhaps more focused on the romance than I personally like. I don't enjoy a lot of love and mushy stuff in my books, but if you're interested in a zombie fiction story that has those elements, especially those queer elements, which is always something I'm looking for, I do recommend this one. I thought it was very well written, it was very character focused, it was very quiet, but at the same time very beautiful because it definitely explores themes of love and commitment, and it was just a good story, so yeah, go read it. Now, if you're willing to try a graphic novel, I have to recommend one of my all-time favorites, and that is Afterlife with Archie. And this is a story that, yes, takes place in Riverdale and follows Archie and his friends. At the beginning of the story, a car hits Hot Dog, the dog that belongs, of course, to Jughead, and kills him. He rushes off to see Sabrina the witch and begs her and her aunts to bring his dog back to life. The aunts say that they cannot do it. The magic is forbidden and dangerous. However, Sabrina takes pity on Jughead and decides to help him. Of course, they go through a sacred ritual and something goes wrong. So the dog, Hot Dog, does come back to life, but not in the same way. He is much more of a zombie-like creature. And from there, he begins to bite humans and they also become infected. This book does take place on Halloween, and so people begin to wander into a Halloween dance. And despite the synopsis, which probably sounds a little bit over the top, trust me, this book is really well written, actually has some really good character work. The artwork is beautiful. It's done in these deep blues and purples and oranges and really fits the tone of the story. So if you're a fan of the Archie comics and are looking for something dark and creepy that does have a zombie angle to it, definitely recommend this one. It's surprisingly fun and I just love it. I've reread it since then and yeah, would love more people to check it out. Finally, I want to end this video by recommending Survivor Song by Paul Tremblay. This is the story of a woman who is living with her spouse in the midst of a pandemic. There is a virus that is causing people to become delusional and get an urge to bite other people. So in order to stay safe, this couple is staying out in isolation and quarantining themselves. However, something goes wrong right at the beginning of the story and they are attacked and the woman is forced to go on the run. She is actually pregnant and gets the help of her friend who is a doctor, and together they go to seek help and try to get her to a hospital because she has been bitten, and they want to hopefully save herself, but also more so the life of her unborn child. Now, this of course is a classic Paul Tremblay book, which means that he takes a fiction category like a zombie fiction and turns it on its head. Instead of telling a really epic pandemic story, he makes this book very intimate. It's very much about the relationship between these two female characters, and it was just a lot of fun. There is a lot of time spent traveling between places, as you often see in these kind of books. And while I am putting this in a zombie fiction recommendations video, this book specifically I want to recommend to those of you that are watching this video and telling me that they really don't like zombie books, because this one is almost a cheat. Because while the illness definitely sounds like a zombie outbreak, the characters in this book make it really clear that no, they're not zombies. The one character, particularly the doctor, is constantly saying that no one is rising from the dead. It's not the same thing. Stop calling them zombies. And so the author does a really good job of doing this tongue-in-cheek joke where it's kind of a zombie book, but it's really not. And I just think that that made it a lot more fun. The author is so self-aware, and as always, Paul Tremblay's writing is fantastic. His character work is even better. And if you enjoy his other work, you definitely should check out this one. It sounds like a zombie book, but it's really not. And you just should read it regardless of how you feel about the undead. So that is it for this video. Let me know down below of the books I mentioned, which one are you most interested in picking out and reading. As well, I would love your recommendations for your favorite zombie books, because I really enjoy reading them and would be happy to do another recommendations video like this. Don't forget to check out my first recommendation video on zombies, which again is going to include a whole nother list of books, so no repeats again. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. I do a lot of recommendation videos. I read horror, thrillers, science fiction, and fantasy, all in the adult genres. And I would love if you would drop a comment, give me a thumbs up, hit that notification bell, and share this online. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.